Hi guys, welcome to the chat. I'm so sorry to keep you waiting. I had a sweet little baby here. Well, she's not a baby, but she's 8 years old, and she's a baby to me. So I was completing a session with her, and she caught me off guard right at the end of our session, and I'm like, oh my God, I have to get to my live chat tonight. And she's like, Miss Tamara, can I sing you my favorite church song? And I'm like, yeah, go ahead. And she starts singing with her lovely voice. And then she asked me to let her hear my singing voice. And that's when it all went downhill. So that's why I am late tonight. But I'm so, so glad to see you guys on. Let me acknowledge all of you that are here while you're here. Deb, hello. Welcome to the chat. So glad to see you tonight. Star, good. I hope that's correct. If not, I apologize, but welcome to the chat. B, hello, welcome to the chat as well. Courtney Frazier, hello, welcome. Jessica J, welcome to the chat. I love your conversation. I was scrolling through all of your conversation as I was trying to set up my camera. So I love seeing that. Kat, hello, welcome to the chat. Yes, I'm on at 7, a little after. My goal is to wrap up by 7:30 or at least 7:40 at the latest. I'm going to try really, really hard. Cheryl, hello, welcome to the chat, and thank you so much for that wonderful compliment. That is very humbling. Thank you. Let's see. I feel like I missed somebody. Did I jump over someone? I feel like I did. I did. Dawn One, hello, welcome to the chat. Glad to have you as well. Clarity and Stephanie E, hello and welcome. Glad to have you tonight. Luke, hello and welcome. I'm sure we'll get the regulars as well on here. There's still some other regulars that haven't signed on, so hopefully they sign on. I see Renisha Thompson, hello, welcome to the chat, says, great to be here and view content that I can easily identify with. Oh, that's wonderful. So glad to have you tonight. I don't remember seeing you, so welcome to the channel. So guys, this topic tonight is it's tricky. And I want to put a disclaimer that I am in no way trying to cast a negative light or discourage the relationship of a parent and a child. I am over the age of 35, and I totally and from the depths of my heart love my mom. She's my everything. And when my dad couldn't be the father he needed to be, my mom was there, you know? And so I'm sure some of you have moms or mother figures who serve that purpose. So I want to put out there as a disclaimer that I am in no way trying to denigrate the relationship of a parent and an adult child. What this live chat is about, and I think most of my regulars, those of you who follow me all the time, you know that I have a channel that talks about the ugly things, the things that most therapists do not talk about. And so tonight's conversation is kind of about that. I'm going to be talking about the profile of an abusive parent. And I'm talking about the adult child, not the child, the adult child. The adult child who has maybe wanted to walk away, the adult child who maybe was pushed away. I'm talking about those two. Also in tonight's live chat, I'm going to be highlighting the emotional climate of a family with a parent who is dysfunctional. So they're clinically speaking, most therapists have to look at the emotional climate of the family. Meaning, when a family comes into my office, I usually see smiling people, kind people. They put out their hand to shake mine. They're respectful, and they're coming to me for a purpose. You know, they want me to help them in some way. So that's my immediate observation of them. But when we sit down, right now, I'm looking for the emotional climate of the family. What is a constant emotional place of existence that this family exists in, right? Is this a family where chaos and hostility is involved all the time, or is this a family where there's peace and camaraderie all the time, or at least most of the time? So that's what I mean by the emotional climate. It is the atmosphere of the family. So tonight, when I talk about dysfunctional and unhealthy parents who just simply don't care about their kids, I'm going to pull apart what research says is that kind of parent. I hope that makes sense. I just saw Paige Matodi sign on. Hello, Paige. Welcome to the chat. Glad to have you tonight. So let's jump into that, okay, guys? This is a complicated topic, and not everybody's going to relate to this. And if you find that you have a good parent and this doesn't relate to your parents, then you can also use this to explain your potentially toxic or unhealthy family, okay, because it can relate to that as well. So let's talk about the dysfunctional parent. I'm going to jump in, okay. Now, research suggests that dysfunctional parents, let's say a mother, for example, they typically have a profile, and that profile explains who they are, and it basically highlights this profile of the dysfunctional mother, the dysfunctional father. We might as well add the fathers in there. It's basically a set of criteria, or a set of characteristics that the parent fits, that explains how they function within a family system. Let's say, for example, I'll give you an example of a profile. Let's say, for example, you have a very narcissistic mother. She's constantly criticizing you. She's constantly expressing her hostility. And that could be, that could be aggressive hostility, meaning that she's slamming doors and slamming things down and yelling and screaming. Or it could be more of a passive aggressive hostility, where she's kind of seething under the surface. You feel the tension. The way they talk to you is degrading and minimizing. When you have a question or a comment, they take as long as the moment will allow before they answer you, right? They kind of pause, and they allow so much time to go by before they answer you. That's passive aggressive behavior, right? Or another passive aggressive behavior may be triangulating. So going to another family member and saying, Carol, my daughter Carol, did A, B, and C. Can you believe she did that? I've been the best mother in the world to her, and she's treated me this way. So talking into somebody else's ear, knowing that it's likely going to get right back around to you within the family, that kind of passive aggressive hostility, right? So there's hostility that's a part of this profile of an unhealthy parent. Also, a part of the profile is a parent who is reactive, right? So if your mother's a narcissist and she engages in hostility, her passive aggressive or her aggressive hostility, then she's most likely going to be reactive. And that means if you do something that she feels is wrong, for example, then she's probably going to act out in response to that slight, right? Whatever that slight may be. It may be something you didn't even mean for her to take personally, but she took it personally anyway. So there's going to be this reactive position that these kind of parents take. So this is part of the profile of an unhealthy, dysfunctional parent. So they're going to be reactive. And we're not talking about the kind of parent who snaps because the child has just overwhelmed them, right? Let's say, for example, you're an adult child and you need something from your mother. You need a loan. You're going back to school. You have rent to pay, bills to pay, and you can't do it all. So you ask your mom for a $10,000 loan, She gives you the $10,000, but then she starts treating you like you're smaller than her, or you're needy of her, or you ask for too much, or you manipulated her into giving you that money, right? So there's this reactive stance, and you're going to get it. You're going to get it, for example, in some fashion. It may not be in an aggressive fashion, right? It may not be where everybody can see it. You may get it back just through how passive aggressive they can be. They are very reactive. Reactive parents who are dysfunctional tend to also instantly threaten suicide. They instantly threaten homicide. I once had a parent come into my office, I'm going to say 3 years ago, when I first started in private practice, a little over 3 years ago. And the parent came in, sat down, said to me, I am a loser of a mother. That's what she said to me. And I said, oh, I don't know if that's true. She says, don't try to stop me. That's what she said to me. Don't try to stop me. I am a pitiful mother. And I asked her, I'm like, okay, so where is this coming from? And she says to me, this is because every time my 25-year-old daughter asks me for something, I have to feel slighted. I can't just be a mom and say, here's the money. She says, I always feel defensive, used, and manipulated, no matter what, no matter how nice she asks me for money. She says, and what I do in response is wrong. I threaten to either kill myself or I threaten to kill her. Now, what kind of personality disorder do you think that is? You know? So she was very reactive. So threatening suicide, threatening homicide, and domestic violence threats. I've had families in my office where the father says, as soon as we leave this office, I'm going to beat you up. There was one time I had a dad threaten to beat the mother as soon as they got home. And I did not, permit that mother to leave my office until I called the police, because that was a direct threat of domestic violence. These kind of parents also tend to be very emotionally reactive, almost histrionic. And what I mean by histrionic is, their emotions are so theatrical that it's hard to calm the storm once you've kind of triggered that unstable parent. Once you trigger an unstable, dysfunctional parent who has abusive behaviors and tendencies, some of their reactions are so huge, right? And they last so long that it's hard to find any peace. It's hard to say, stop, because that parent just goes and goes and goes and goes, and it's like a situation that spirals down very quickly, right? And I told a family the other day, I said, when you have a dysfunctional parent who's a leader of a family, or a dysfunctional, very reactive parent who is the leader of a family, and they spiral out of control, it's really hard for everybody else in that family unit to stay stable. So the spouse is going to go, the children are going to go down, maybe the grandchildren are going to go down, right? Maybe the grandparents, right? It's like the whole entire unit goes down when one leader of a family, typically a mother or father, spirals out of control. Okay, so that is the reactive parent. You're also likely to see these kind of parents be imbalanced and impulsive. An impulsive, kind of a dysfunctional parent who's abusive, usually acts out. So there's domestic violence, there's threats against you. There may even be family stalking, where they get online and they stalk your social media because they want to know everything about you. They want to know where you've been. They want to know about your social arena, right? And there may also be some gang stalking in there as well. Gang stalking can be very impulsive for the perpetrator. So here's what I mean by that. Gang stalking, or stalking by proxy, and I'm only going to explain one component of gang stalking because I did a whole video series on this and a live chat. I'll post it in the description box for you after this goes off. But gang stalking, or stalking by proxy, is when an individual, typically somebody who is angry, resentful and vengeful, they get somebody else to do their dirty work, stalk you, follow you, intimidate you, call you repeatedly, make you just feel totally unsafe and insecure. Stalking by proxy could also be, a very angry, vengeful family member or ex-spouse or friend or whatever who's angry with you, and they are doing things using big corporations against you. So an example of that may be, let's say you've offended your mom. She's very reactive. She's very impulsive. She's always been abusive. And she decides, I'm going to stalk. And she starts to engage in stalking by proxy, where she knows what time of day you get home from work. And what she does is she orders products that are then delivered to your home every single day. So you're getting hair products on your front step. You're getting magazines that you never signed up for. You're getting flyers posted on your front door that says you're going to have a strip party next week. I mean, you're getting all kind of stuff on your property and you don't know where this is coming from. That can be one component of stalking by proxy. And so very impulsive, dysfunctional families, or parents, for the purposes of this live chat, could do something like this, right? I had one case over the past 15 years of my career as a therapist in many capacities. I've only had one family who engaged in gang stalking. Can you believe that? Like, you would think gang stalking would be way more common, but for me in private practice, it just hasn't been. I've only seen one family like this, and it entailed a father who was gang stalking his daughter. and really tapping into various forms of stalking to come against her. He was dysfunctional and abusive as well. Two more things before I go to the chat box. I see you guys commenting. There's also, I think I mentioned this kind of a parent being imbalanced. And an imbalanced parental system tends to include two forms of parenting. And it continues from childhood all the way up to adulthood. And that is permissive parenting and authoritarian parenting. Permissive parenting is when a parent says, I'm just going to push you out there. Go ahead, experience life, hope life treats you well, hope you get along really well in the world. I'm done. That's the only thing a permissive parent wants to do. They want to be able to wash their hands of you, even as an adult child, push you into the world when you're not ready, doesn't support you financially, emotionally, psychologically, nothing, because they don't want to have any ties attached to you. They want to be, free-spirited parents, right? So those kind of parents just kind of wash their hands of you. So those are the permissive parents. And the authoritarian parents tend to be the fathers who are psychopathic, they're narcissistic, and you're going to do what they tell you to do or wish you had a. They're very rule-oriented, very cold and callous kind of parent. And let me just say lastly here before I go back to the chat box, these kind of parents function in disequilibrium. Disequilibrium means that you're in an environment where there's always an imbalance. There's always an imbalance. There's never a balance. Equilibrium doesn't exist in this particular kind of family. A dysfunctional, very highly emotional family is typically in disequilibrium, and it's hard to function, it's hard to breathe, it's hard to grow when the environment keeps changing like this. Now, when the family climate, the emotional climate of the family gets here, that is called equilibrium. Everybody's on the same level. But what happens in a dysfunctional system where there's an inadequate parent, things go back to being in a state of disequilibrium. Disequilibrium, if I can say it. It's a lot to say. Try saying that 900 times. That imbalance happens when there's an unstable, dysfunctional parent. Why? Because that parent learns how to function in that chaotic environment. And so when there's peace and there's equilibrium, they're going to do something to upset the environment. All right, let me go to the chat box, guys. Let me see what you guys are saying. I'm sure a lot of you can relate to this. I'm going to start with Jessica J. Jessica J says, thank you. My husband's mother is narcissistic and highly abusive. So after decades, we went no contact. She has his siblings as flying monkeys, unfortunately. It's so sad for my husband. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it sounds like, I don't know if she's I don't know if she's a dysfunctional kind of a mom. It sounds like she's manipulative. But I'm gonna bring up in a couple minutes here what research suggests is wrong in families with these kind of dysfunctional parents. And so Jessica J, I'm going to point that out in a little bit, so stay tuned for that. I'm going to go back to Clarity. Clarity says, my gram was my mother figure. My mother is a 70-something-year-old toddler. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And again, these kind of parents tend to function in disequilibrium. So that toddler disposition says, I want to be in disequilibrium. I don't want to function when things are balanced, stable, and in a state of equilibrium. Equilibrium. Did I say that right? Disequilibrium? Equilibrium. I did not say that right. Okay, I'm going to drop that word in a little bit here because that's hard to say. But, for you, Clarity, it sounds like, your mom is used to engaging in an environment where there's instability, there's disequilibrium, So, and you're going to see a lot of that toddler behavior come out when a parent is unhealthy and dysfunctional. I'm going to talk about something that psychologists have studied for many decades, and it's called, it could either be a high or a low expressed emotion, high or low expressed emotion. And I'm going to tell you what that is, because what it does, Understanding high and low expressed emotion within a family context really does help you understand, number one, what family you grew up in, and number two, it also helps you understand why maybe your parent has always been very unstable. So we're going to get to that in a few minutes. Let me go to Cheryl. Cheryl says, when my life started falling apart 4 years ago and started to meet parts inside my narcissist mother. Let me read that over, Cheryl. When my life started falling apart 4 years ago and started to meet parts inside my narcissist mother, slowed down. Oh, my narcissist mother slowed down, started slowing down, calling me, and I didn't have to go no contact. She did it to me. Okay, that was a little botchy, Cheryl. I got what you're saying though. So you didn't have to go no contact. Your mom would no contact with you. Now, let me just highlight, and this is another disclaimer. I in no way want to encourage any kind of separation between an adult child and their parent, or vice versa. When that happens, it's so very painful and it's a long journey towards healing. But if that is something that you have to do, and Cheryl, I think you've mentioned this in the past as well during videos and live chats, if that is part of the puzzle because you have a very unstable parent, then that's exactly what you have to do. Let me tell you just a brief story from my clinical experience. I had a family last year. Felt so sorry for the 18 and 19-year-old that was born into this family with high expressed emotion. And I'm gonna tell you what that is here in just a second. The mother was very unstable, and so was the father. The mother did not want to be a parent, and she clearly stated right in my office to her 18 and 19-year-old, you were a mistake. She said, I never wanted to be a mother. It was your father who wanted kids. And he, she says, I had you too. He went off to work and I was stuck having to raise you. She said, and I resent you for that. I resent you. And she said it 3 times. I resent you. I resent you. I resent you. That's how she said it in my office. And both kids, the 18 and the 19-year-old boy and girl, they like literally broke down in tears. And she never reached over to hug them. Never said, I'm sorry, never said, I take responsibility for this, nothing. She just said, I want nothing to do with you guys. She says, I am going no contact with you because I don't want to be a mother. That was the most painful session I'd ever had. And I cried after the family left because here's this 18 and 19-year-old with a very unstable mother who I thought was going through a psychosis. She was very psychotic in a lot of ways. It was very painful to see these adult children just have to hear that they were a mistake. She never wanted to be a mother, and that their father wanted them, not her. So Cheryl, sometimes that's the reality of it, right? That the parents end up going no contact, and with my clinical case from last year, that mom did. She went no contact. As soon as she left my office, she blocked her kid's phone number, and she never spoke to them again. And every now and then the kids reach out to me to give me an update, and they haven't heard from their mom in over a year. And it's the most painful. So you're right, Cheryl. Sometimes the parents walk away first. It's so sad. John Boyega, I hope I said that right. Hello, welcome to the chat. I don't remember seeing you, so welcome. I'm going to keep going. Okay, I want to... Yeah. John Boyega, I hope I'm saying that right. Infantilization is a big thing. I agree. I'm not going to touch on that right now because I might do a video pretty soon. I don't know. I'm throwing it around in my mind. Yeah, I might touch on that. So I'm going to skip that because if I get into it, I'm not going to want to stop because that's a whole other psychotic topic. Because it does involve a parent who has no ability to love their child, their offspring, and that child grows up, if they make it, into an adult child who doesn't have a parental figure. So I'm going to come back to that, but you're right, John, it is a pretty big topic. Courtney Frazier says, can it feel like a parent left without them actually leaving you? Absolutely. And that's a fantastic question. I'm glad you brought that up. Yes, it can feel like a parent has walked away from you, even if they are right there in the room with you. Because here's the reality of it: we are emotionally connected to our parents, right? That's who brought us into this world, right? So we are biologically, through blood, through genes, through DNA, connected, and we are also emotionally connected. And when a child has grown up side by side a parent, they understand the relational dance that they're in, right? There's a relational dance between mother and child, between father and child. And so we kind of what's the word I'm looking for? We kind of absorb that, and so we know the language of our parents. And if you're in the same room with a parent and you feel like they're not connected to you, you're probably right. Because up here and in their heart, you mean nothing to them. Or maybe you mean very little. It really just depends on what kind of parents you have. I never want to do a video like this or a live chat, because it's really showing the ugly side of some parents. I have a wonderful mom. But my mom, how do I want to put this? And I'm going to protect my mom's confidentiality too, but my mom loves her mom. My grandmother passed away 3 years ago. It still feels like a year ago. That's how close to our heart that she was. So she passed away 3 years ago, and we were very, very close. I was her little girl. She just spoiled me all the time growing up. And my mom, they had an off and on rocky, kind of toxic mother-daughter relationship. But by the time my grandmother hit maybe 60 and up, the relationship shifted and it got a little bit better. But my mom doesn't have the kind of mom that I have in my mom. I have a fantastic mother, thank God. But her mom was kind of dysfunctional and toxic. And it put my mom through a lot. My mom went through a lot. And my uncle as well. They were both really traumatized by my grandmother's lifestyle. And so I'm going to leave it at that. But my mom felt like my grandmother was never truly emotionally and psychologically present growing up. And so that left my mom out in this big world trying to figure out, should she go this way? Should she go that way? Should she marry that person? Should she not? Should she have me? Should she, she was just so confused in her world. And this is specifically for you, Courtney Frazier, because her mom wasn't present, and she was there in her body, but present in her mind and in her heart. And so that affected my mom for many, many years. So I hope that answers your question. That's a fantastic question. Thank you for that. Kat says, these kind of parents use your siblings against you. My sister knew I was being violated. Years later, she confessed without knowing that she knew of the mistreatment, and she was spying on me and giving my mother the 411. Yeah, sometimes siblings can be evil. They can. They can. Especially if you have a parent that's evil, right? We can call evil siblings that seem to like build this kind of truce with a parent, or I don't even know what to call it. In family therapy, we call it I'm blanking on the term. Oh, I'm blanking on the term. I don't remember the term. It almost came to me. So let's describe it this way. It's kind of like there's the word, a coalition. A coalition. That's what I'm looking for. Siblings who kind of are in partnership with an unstable parent can be known as a coalition, meaning it's kind of like this political association. It's like we think alike, we feel alike, we believe alike, we act alike. Let's be alike. And they become really cemented to each other. You know what I mean? So it's called a coalition. It's really unhealthy. It's very enmeshed. The child teams up with the parent that's unstable, and they go against the rest of the family. It's a very unhealthy thing. So I might bring up coalitions in the future. But anyway, thank you for that, Kat. That's very important as well, that a sibling can really join forces with an unstable parent, and that's a really huge mistake. Okay. Dragon Man Sassin, hello. Welcome to the chat. Happy Friday to you too. Glad to see you. Glad to see you on here. Jacob Taylor, hello. Welcome to the chat. Welcome to the chat. Jacob Taylor says, my parents called the police on me a few days ago after I confronted them. My Lord, it's like, why? So, if you were a threat to them or they were afraid of you or there was a big argument and they didn't know what to expect, whatever, okay, I can kind of see that. I still think it's wrong, but I could kind of see that. But to call the police on your child, that's no, I can't go with that. No. I'm very sorry to hear that, Jacob Taylor, by the way. I'm looking at Cheryl's comment as well. Cheryl says, I'm really just figuring out the kind of parent I was raised by. And sometimes live chats like this or videos like this can really cement the identity of your parent, right? Because in conversations like this and with my clinical examples and experience, you can kind of sit back and almost look at your life, in your own mind and in your own heart and say, wait a minute, that was me, and it kind of makes sense. My mom has always been a huge supporter of my profession, my career, and I mean huge. If I would have dropped out of college, graduate school, like she would have probably killed me. That's how much in support of my profession and how much she thought that I could do the work that I do. Let me tell you, she says to me, she's like, Tamara, I love she calls her mama. She says, I love mama and I wish I could have her back. She says, but there were just certain parts of my life with her where I'm just thinking, I couldn't do that to my children, And so there are times even with my mom being 68 and having me as her daughter, having a therapist as a daughter, she still pauses and she's like, I can't believe my mother did that to me, And so Cheryl, I think that's a normal process. And I think it's also normal as you get older too. My mom starts to process the kind of parents that she had as she gets older. I noticed that about her a lot. Okay, let me keep going, guys. Max Newton says, welcome to the chat, by the way. I don't remember seeing you before, so welcome. Says, Tamara, thank you so much for all that you do. Oh, you're welcome. That's so sweet of you. You have been a big influence for me in my healing journey and my professional aspirations as I pursue clinical psychology. That is so wonderful and so humbling. Thank you for that. And I'm very, very glad to have you on the channel. Thank you. Thank you for that sweet comment. All right, let's jump back into the content. All right, guys. So I left off at the emotional climate of the family, right? And I kind of gave you some information on the profile, the personality profile of these kind of parents. So let's talk about expressed emotion. So clinical research suggests this, that family members who have, let's say, for example, a mental illness or a mental health concern or a, psychotic disorder like schizophrenia, where there's hallucinations and delusions, false beliefs held to be true when they're not true, and there's proof that they're not true, and hallucinations, like seeing and hearing things that aren't there. Schizophrenia can really derail an entire family. When a person with schizophrenia is reintroduced, maybe they were in the hospital for so many months, maybe they were in a residential treatment facility, whatever, when they are reintroduced to a family with a certain level of expressed emotion, that individual with schizophrenia is most likely going to relapse. And that's because the family is not stable. Expressed emotion explains the emotional climate of a family. We all have an emotional climate, My family's emotional climate is laid back. It's respectful. It comes from a place of love and understanding, even though we fight sometimes, we argue sometimes, we disagree sometimes. My mom gets upset, I get upset. My brothers get upset with each other. So it's a normal family, right? Our emotional climate at the core is stable, no matter what happens. When you are in a highly toxic and dysfunctional family system, the emotional climate is going to be 100, and 100 is the highest on the scale. It's the worst. And people with schizophrenia or any kind of a mental illness or mental health condition can start to regress, right, and relapse if they are reintroduced to a highly toxic environment. A highly expressed emotional environment usually entails criticism all the time. Criticism nonstop. Emotional over-involvement, meaning nobody has proper boundaries. It's I'm in your world, you're in mine. We sleep in the same beds. Siblings are not allowed to sleep in separate beds. They have to sleep in the same beds. Dad, I had this one time. I was disturbed. Dad is washing up his 15-year-old daughter. That's a child protective services issue. That has happened. So there's emotional over involvement in these highly emotional families. We call them high expressed emotional families, right? The emotions in the family are high, and the expression of the emotions are at a toxic level, a toxic height. So there's criticism, there's emotional over involvement, and then there is also hostility. Hostility is at the core. Hostility could be passive aggressive hostility, or it could be very aggressive hostility. Aggressive hostility is a father who comes in every day from work slamming doors, cursing, threatening everybody, beating up the mom, attacking the children, calling everybody names. That's aggressive hostility. But then there could also be passive aggressive hostility, where there's huffing and puffing and slamming doors and slamming things down with a smile on their face, right? Or walking around without saying excuse me, or hi, how are you this morning, or good morning, or good night. You don't do any of that because the level of hostility is way up here. It may be passive or it may be aggressive. Okay, now a family with low expressed emotion is a family that has it's more of a stable environment. There's equilibrium there. It's more of a positive and negative experience within the family sometimes. There may be some emotional over involvement, but it may not be as toxic. And there's not as much criticism, and there's absolutely no hostility. The emotional climate of the family is more normative, and that's called a low expressed emotion, right? There's a low level of expressed emotion within that family. It's more of a normal family. So let's say you come from a family like this, what do you do? It's hard to survive if you have a family where there's a high level of expressed emotion, because every single thing you do within that family, especially with the toxic mother, the toxic father, it's going to be a criticism. It's going to be a insult. It's going to be some revenge being sought. There's going to be some negative statements being made that could be very detrimental to your self-esteem, to your mind. I had a family 2 years ago where the father, was very jealous of the mother, because the father felt like he was never home to see his children. The children loved their mom more than him. He felt that the mother was a savior or some kind of a god, and so therefore his envy and his jealousy and his anger just grew every single day. And it created a very hostile environment where even the children, they were both 19, so they're twins. They were both on the verge of committing suicide because they couldn't live in that environment of high expressed emotion. We call it HEE. That's another way that you could abbreviate that, because it's a lot to say. High expressed emotion was in that family, and so the twins, the two kids, 19, couldn't think of any way out of that toxic, hostile environment than to just take their own lives. So they had a very extensive suicide plan. They had suicide notes written. They put them in envelopes, like they were on the verge of committing suicide, because they couldn't exist within this hostile environment. So it's really hard to exist in this kind of environment. Okay, let me pause here before I give you an understanding of what's wrong with these parents, and then we're going to wrap up, guys. All right, so let me go to the chat box. Susan Garner says, what is gang stalking? So, Susan, I don't know if you saw any of my videos on gang stalking. My video on gang stalking went viral within like 3 hours of me posting the video, and it already has 10,000 views, and it's only been a week or two. The video was pretty popular because a lot of people want to know what is gang stalking. They also want a very common sense understanding of what it is, because a lot of people, and this is a side note, Susan, a lot of people believe gang stalking is for people who have a mental illness, that it's a psychosis, that it's a delusion, it's a hallucination. The reality is that gang stalking really is a thing. We just don't talk much about it because we don't have a lot of research. Gang stalking, this is the kind of gang stalking that I've been taught about, that I've done research on, and that I've seen in some of my cases, and even amongst my colleagues. We talk about it all the time. Gang stalking is a variety of things, but the two most important pieces for me as a clinician is stalking by proxy, meaning that you pay someone, you bribe someone, you promise someone something to stalk somebody that you're angry with, you know? It's kind of like, you're angry with Fufu over there, and you're going to get Uncle Tom to go and spy on Fufu, and they're going to stalk Fufu every day for the next 2 months. Also too, gang stalking can be seen as a vengeful individual who's hostile, who is calling different businesses and organizations, sending them to your doorstep, sending them to your workplace, maybe even sending you flowers to your job with their name on them. It's just to make you cringe and to make you feel trapped. So that's gang stalking in a nutshell. I'll post my video in the description box for you, Susan. All right, I'm going to keep going, guys. Caitlin O'Hara, hello, welcome to the chat. I don't remember seeing you, so welcome. Says, I just learned my mother donated a large sum of cash to the man who threatened to send his 2 grown sons to beat me a few years ago. No contact solution for good reason. Yeah, absolutely. That's not okay. Sounds like mom is either naive or she's in bondage because of codependency. I don't know what to think of that, but something's wrong there. Something's definitely wrong. And I'm very sorry to hear that. That's not okay. Not okay. All right, I'm going to keep going. Paige Matodi says, my parents were permissive about anything that actually mattered. I was emotionally and financially independent as a teen, yet they wanted full control whenever they needed to unleash their rage. Yeah, absolutely. And I'm so glad you bring that up, Paige, and I'm so sorry you had to deal with that. Sometimes parents will create a situation where they can they can release or unleash their rage. And sometimes, it happens in a family system where there's triangulation. Let me show you what this looks like. Hold on. I'm literally going to give you an outline of what this looks like. So this is called a drama triangle. Okay? And in a drama triangle, this is how these toxic, unhealthy parents can unleash their rage. They do it through this one method. Not always, but sometimes they do. And so the drama triangle consists of the victim, right? The persecutor, and a rescuer. Okay? And I'm going to show you how this looks right now. And this drama triangle is not my idea, by the way. I'll post the information in the description box for you. But this is the drama triangle, okay, guys? And this is how this operates. So let's say, for example, and this is specifically for YouTube page, let's say, for example, you have a unstable, toxic parent, right? It's a mother. She is now being very hostile, being very critical of you, creating all kind of emotional challenges within the family. She's going to claim victim status, right? She's going to say, I am the victim. Everybody's coming after me. So that's where the mom is. Now, whoever she feels is coming against her, for example, is going to be the persecutor, the one who's pointing the fingers, the one who's telling her not to do this and not to do that and to correct her behavior. There's always going to be a persecutor of some kind. And then there's always going to be a rescuer. This is called the drama triangle. And this is what happens in these families with high expressed emotion. They often get in this drama triangle where the parent says, okay, you guys want to come against me? Watch what I do. And they perform in this very victim mindset, and they become so engulfed in that victim mindset that they can't get out of it. right? And they may stay in that victim mindset for many, many years. And then there's always a rescuer of some kind, whether that's the husband or the therapist or the cousin or the uncle, the neighbor. There's a rescuer. That person, somehow rescues them, from that persecutor, that one who points the finger. So, Paige, it doesn't shock me that this most likely was the dynamic that you were brought up in or that you experienced. That is how a parent can sometimes unleash their hostility. They create that triangle, and once they create that triangle, it's hard to get them out of that mindset. Okay, I'm going to keep going. And then I'm going to teach you what's wrong with these kind of parents, and then we're going to wrap up, guys. Oh, that's so sweet, Cheryl. I'm going to show my mom this. She's going to probably cry. So Cheryl says, Tamara, your character speaks to your mother being such a good woman. I'm so happy you have a good one. It probably a good reason you're such a good therapist. Thank you so much, Cheryl. That's so sweet. I think that is why my mom is a fantastic mom. We haven't always agreed. Kids and parents, they're like, they clash. But let me tell you, if my mom passed away tomorrow, you guys wouldn't see me for like a whole year because I'd be so heartbroken. So thank you, Cheryl. That's so sweet of you. I'm definitely going to show her that. Yeah, this is good one, Star. So Star Gold, I think that's the correct way to say it. I'm sorry if it's not, says, I don't really care about craziness at this point. I just want to ask why I could never form a bond with my own mother. Yeah, absolutely. And let me just say that bond starts at birth, right? There's a reason why when an infant is born, the nurses and the doctors want skin to skin contact between the baby, the infant, and the parent. Why? Because that instant skin to skin contact actually creates an emotional bond. It kind of, think of striking a match, that's kind of what happens when that skin to skin contact with an infant and a parent happens. It's like striking that match. And that's level one to that emotional bond. Then after that, the way the mother takes care of the child post birth also creates that bond, and it also creates that attachment. And when you don't have that healthy attachment because of something that happened in early childhood, excuse me, and infancy, it's going to be really difficult for you to form and maintain that bond over time. So keep that in mind. That might be something you want to research, attachment styles and how they get started, and that may be one reason why you couldn't bond with your mother. All right, you guys have so many awesome comments. I need to get back into the content. Let me go back though to I'll read John Boyga. Hopefully I'm saying that the right way, and I'm not saying it wrong. He says, it always felt like my parents were trying to mold me into their ideal child instead of getting to know me. So accomplishments were held as our self-worth. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I have a lot of parents that do that, John, and I'm sure you can relate to this. We're going to put you on the basketball team because I think you're going to be a really good basketball player. We're going to put you into art school and you're going to go to the best college in the nation because we think you can do it. When that could be a very healthy, loving thing a parent is doing, right? Trying to nudge you to a healthy place growing up. But then on the flip side of that, the toxic piece of that could be this is a narcissistic parent who just wants to show you off like a trophy. Because the smarter you are, the smarter they are. Cheryl just said it. For example, she said, maybe that's why you're a good therapist, speaks to your mom's character. And while that is 100% true, there are some situations where people think that way about narcissistic parents who just use their kids as a trophy, right? So, yeah, John, that is not shocking at all. Not shocking at all. All right, all right. Yeah. Oh, Clarity, you're so sweet. She says, I'm sorry. I need to run and make dinner. Thank you for everything. Oh, you're welcome, Clarity. That's so sweet of you to let me know that. Good night to you as well. Thank you for tuning in. You so don't have to do that. So I love when you guys tune in. Thank you. All right, let's jump back into the content and then we're going to wrap up, guys. I'm going to scroll through your comments and then we're going to wrap up because I'm late. I was supposed to wrap up at 7:30. Didn't happen, never happens. So, okay, let's talk about this parent. So, what is wrong here? I have a wonderful mentor, And he's just been so, so supportive to me. He started with me back when I entered college and I started studying psychology. And he's like a father figure to me. I don't know if he knows that or not. I'm so grateful to him. He might know who I'm talking about. If not, I'll make it clear in a little bit here. But, he's been a mentor for me. And one of the things that he said to me recently is there's a reason why I don't work with families. There's a reason why I don't work with children, because they are really, really difficult. The cases they are convoluted, Being a child, adolescent, and family therapist is a headache sometimes. I am blessed to be able to be in this role, but it is a headache sometimes because I'm often faced with bad parents. There's some wonderful good parents, and most of them fail my practice. But I always get those, like at least once a year, I get 5 bad parents, and I can clearly call them bad because they are abusive. They soak the energy up from their children. They're like emotional vampires. They are self-centered and egotistical and narcissistic, and it derails the child's life. And some parents who are like that, they admit it. And that makes it even worse. You know you're toxic and you're admitting that too. Like, that is so heartbreaking, and some parents will. So let me tell you some of the things I've seen. And here's what research also suggests is the problem of an abusive parent, of a parent that has created a high emotional level within a household or in a family. The first thing that you're likely to see is what we call parental antagonism. Parental antagonism. Parental antagonism is this: that I do any and everything I can to antagonize you. I either do it because I know I have the power over you as the parent. I know that I'm going to push your buttons. Or I do it unintentionally because that's the dynamic that has been created between us. So it's parental antagonism. The other thing that's wrong with these kind of parents is they could be harsh and mean. Harshness and meanness is another fact of research into these kind of families with high expressed emotion. These kind of parents tend to be harsh and mean. It's simply put, there's no other way for me to explain it. They are harsh, they are mean. There's also what we call disinhibition. And that means that the parent has an inability to suppress what is inappropriate. So a parent that has the character trait of disinhibition, or the problem of disinhibition, they tend to be impulsive, reactive, histrionic, loud. They tend to be very angry. They're always jumping or sometimes literally jumping on other people. They have no boundary. They don't have it. And so they tend to react, and they tend to be impulsive more than anything else. So they have a hard time suppressing the inappropriate urges that they have. The other part of these kind of parents, they tend to have a boldness about them that's disregarding, right? And I once had a parent like this. Father came into my office 3 years ago, and he had a boldness that I just couldn't wrap my mind around. He literally was looking for cameras in my office. Because, what therapist doesn't have surveillance to protect themselves and the families and the people that come into their practice? But for some reason he wanted to see if I had them or didn't have them. And he sat down in my reading room and he says, "I see the surveillance you have here." And I'm like, narcissist alert. What is this? And I'm like, okay, this is a family I don't really want to deal with now because this dad is about to really trigger me. And so he's like, "I see the surveillance. Is there any way that we could, turn that off so that when we're back in your office, the information we're talking about doesn't get heard in the waiting room cameras?" And I'm like, this guy is unbelievable. And so that kind of boldness is just, it's uncouth. Can I say that? Like, it's unfathomable. I'll put it that way. Another example of boldness in these kind of dysfunctional parents is they may actually say, "I never wanted you. That's why we're not bonded. I never wanted you. You're a mistake." I've had parents say that right on this couch. "You're a mistake." And it boggles my mind every time. So that kind of boldness. There's also poor self-control. We just talked about disinhibition. There's also egocentrism. Everything revolves around that parent, that dysfunctional parent. You hurt me. You created this problem. you're a mistake. Like, you know, everything is you. You're the problem, right? And they're pointing the finger at you, and they are the victim. And that's how that goes. So they're very egocentric. Everything is about them. Nobody else experiences pain but them. And that's how that goes. There's also with these kind of parents, there's a almost like a disrupted developmental process. I'll put it that way. There's like a disrupted developmental process. They haven't grown up. So, put very frankly, they're immature. They're kids, they're toddlers, as Clarity put it earlier. And so these kind of parents, it's almost like they've missed out on some very important developmental milestones. They missed out on how to grow up. They missed out on how to control their emotions. They missed the milestone where they were supposed to mature and be healthy adults in society. There's a disrupted developmental process with these kind of parents. There's also what we call no reciprocity, right? Reciprocity meaning I give and you give. There's none of that. And lastly, there's what we call transgenerational trauma. There's trauma from way back there, and it runs rampant through the generations, right? And that kind of intergenerational trauma or intergenerational or transgenerational problem could be a mental illness. I think I completed that sentence right, I think. But it could be a mental illness. So bipolar disorder, and a mother not taking care of her bipolar disorder that causes her to have these emotional outbursts within the household, not taking her medication, not looking at the fact that if she stops her medication, she's going to destroy her family. That kind of transgenerational issue is often present here. The mother had bipolar disorder and dropped her meds and ended up killing herself. The next mother, who may be your mother, for example, has bipolar disorder and stopped taking her medication, and she's threatening her life. And it just continues on and on. So that's called transgenerational mental illness. This is what's wrong, guys. This is what's wrong, and this is what research says is wrong. I'm going to post some things in the description box for you just so that you can see the research on this, and I'm not just telling you. Let me go to the chat box, guys, and then I'm going to wrap up. I'm like, what's vibrating here? My cell phone in my back pants pocket. It's time to go home. Mel Kep, hello. Welcome to the chat. Glad to have you. No. There's lots to replay, Mel Kep, so no, you're not late at all. Alexi, hello, welcome to the chat, says, when the mentally ill person re-enters, the focus goes straight back to them. The abuse starts exactly where it left off, and the pattern continues. Absolutely, Alexi. I used to work in a psychiatric hospital with children who had schizophrenia, children who were delusional. And when I worked in that environment, we would discharge the children within 48 hours to 72 hours of admission. And we would have to literally discharge these poor babies into the control and the possession of their parent. And the psychosis would restart. It was like hitting a restart button. And I would end up, it was almost like a boomerang, you know, or a revolving door. That child that I just discharged has now returned to me maybe a week later because they've re-entered into that toxic, unhealthy environment. So you're right, Lexi. It starts all over again. It's been cold lately. Hello. Welcome to the chat. Says, bless you. Hi, hey, Tamara. Well, bless you too. I'm always glad to see you. So thanks for coming. Welcome. All right. I want to keep going. Is it Mima Sean? Sean, I hope I'm saying that correctly. Welcome to the chat, and welcome. I don't remember seeing you. Says, hey, Tamara, I'm so glad to catch you live, as I find it difficult given the time difference. Yeah, Australia is really different. You're giving so much value to the world, Tamara, and I really appreciate your channel. Oh, that's so sweet. Thank you. So humbling. Thank you so much for that. I love that. Thank you. That's really sweet. Yes, you're welcome, Kat. Kat says, thank you, Tamara. This was great. You're welcome. You're welcome. Jessica says, thank you so much for this valuable information. Bless you. Yes, bless you too. Thank you. Okay, you guys have awesome comments. Leave them in the description box below for me. I will come back to whatever questions you have. I'll answer them. I don't know if I'm going to do a Sunday video because I think this video needs to sit so people can see it. So we'll see. I don't know. Either way, I'll let you guys know. I love you so much. You're so wonderful. And thank you for all the support that you give to my channel and to me. And I look forward to seeing you guys, if not on Sunday, then in the next live chat. Oh my goodness. I can hardly speak. That's how tired I am. All right, I'm just making sure I'm not missing anything. Yes, you too, Dragon Man Assassin. Have a great night. Yes, yes, yes. Same to you, Jessica. B. Yes, B. I'm so sorry to hear that. I just saw that. Uh, yeah, yeah. When you lose a mom, that's just so, so painful. My mom lost her mom, and I don't think my mom's been the same. Even though they've had their rocky times, she still loved her mom, and it's really difficult. So, B, hang in there. You're going to have to learn to live with the loss, but it will get a little less painful over time. A little less painful over time. So keep that in mind. All right, guys. Love you so much. Have a wonderful weekend. I'll see you soon. Good night.